You wake up at 3 a.m. You don't know why. The room is dark. Your phone says it's the middle of the night. You assume something is wrong with you. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, sleeping straight through the night wasn't normal. It wasn't even common. Waking up in the dark, lying still, listening, thinking, that was the default. You weren't broken. You were doing exactly what your ancestors did for thousands of generations. Today you call it insomnia. Back then, it didn't even have a name. In the 1990s, historian A. Roger Ekirch began digging through old diaries, court records, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. He found something odd. Again and again, people described two distinct sleeps in a single night. A first sleep, a period of quiet wakefulness, a second sleep. Writers referred to it so casually that Ekirch realized this wasn't a quirk. It was simply how people slept. Picture it. The sun sets. There is no electric light. A family eats, talks, maybe prays, then lies down a few hours after dark. They sleep for 3 or 4 hours. Then they wake. Not in a panic, not checking a clock. They simply wake. This middle stretch of the night had a name. The watch. People used it to pray, to think, to talk quietly with a partner, sometimes to visit a neighbor. Some just lay in the dark, awake, unhurried. After an hour or two, they drifted into a second sleep that carried them to dawn. Why would human bodies evolve this way? The answer connects to something deeper than convenience. Psychiatrist Thomas Wehr ran an experiment in the early 1990s that changed how scientists think about sleep. He took a group of participants and removed artificial light from their evenings entirely. No lamps, no screens. Just 14 hours of darkness a night, the way a winter night might have looked thousands of years ago. Within weeks, something shifted. The participants stopped sleeping in one long block. Instead, they split into 2 sleep phases, separated by an hour or more of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night. Their bodies, freed from artificial light, reverted to a pattern that modern humans had almost completely forgotten. Wehr's conclusion was simple and unsettling. Segmented sleep might not be a disorder. It might be the body's natural rhythm, buried under a few centuries of electric light. Think about what that means. Your ancestors didn't fight to fall back asleep. They didn't reach for a phone to check the time. They didn't lie there anxious about being awake. Waking at night was expected. It was woven into how a day was understood. There was first sleep, the watch, and second sleep. 3 movements instead of 1. So what changed? Light changed everything. Gas lighting spread through cities in the 1800s. Electric light followed soon after. Suddenly, evenings stretched later, bedtimes pushed back. The watch, that quiet hour of wakefulness, had nowhere left to fit. Sleep compressed into a single block, squeezed between a later bedtime and an earlier alarm. By the early 1900s, references to first sleep and second sleep had nearly vanished from written language. Not because human biology had changed, because the cultural memory of how to sleep had been rewritten in less than 100 years. Here is the strange part. Your biology didn't get the memo. Sleep scientists have identified that human sleep naturally moves through cycles, roughly 90 minutes each, dipping in and out of lighter and deeper stages. Somewhere in the middle of a long night, a natural dip toward wakefulness is common. It always was. What changed is what you do with it. When your ancestor woke at 2 a.m., there was no glowing screen demanding attention, no anxious thought that something was wrong, no race against a clock. There was darkness, the sound of breathing nearby, and time to simply exist before sleep returned. When you wake at 2 a.m., your mind treats it as a malfunction. You check the time, you calculate how many hours remain, you feel a flicker of panic. That panic itself releases cortisol, the same stress hormone your ancestors used to feel during an actual threat. A predator near the camp, a fire dying out, a stranger approaching in the dark. Except there is no threat, just a clock and an expectation that you should be unconscious right now. Anthropologist Carol Worthman studied sleep patterns across modern hunter-gatherer and small-scale societies, including communities with little exposure to artificial light. Her research found wide variation in how people slept, but one detail stood out. Solid 8-hour, uninterrupted sleep, the version treated today as the gold standard, was not the universal human experience. Flexible, often broken sleep was common, and it didn't carry the anxiety modern people attach to it. So the 8-hour block isn't ancient wisdom. It's a relatively recent invention built around factory schedules, artificial light, and the demand that bodies operate on a clock instead of a rhythm. There's a deeper layer here too. That quiet hour of nighttime wakefulness may have served a purpose beyond rest. Some researchers have proposed that this in-between time functioned almost like a second daydreaming state, an uninterrupted block for the mind to wander without external input. No tasks, no conversation, no light, just thought, drifting freely between waking and dreaming logic. Some historical accounts even describe people interpreting dreams from their first sleep during this window, weaving them into plans or decisions for the day ahead. Now compare that to what happens when you wake at night today. Instead of quiet drifting thought, there's a phone, a screen flooding the room with blue light that tells your brain it's daytime. Notifications, news, a dopamine loop disguised as harmless scrolling. The ancient watch period, once a space for stillness, has been replaced by stimulation precisely when your body expects calm. This is the modern mirror. The instinct to wake in the night never disappeared. What disappeared was a culture that knew what to do with it. Knowing this doesn't fix everything, but it does change what waking up at 3 a.m. means. It is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is your body following a rhythm older than electricity, older than clocks, older than the idea that sleep should be one unbroken block from dusk to dawn. For most of human history, the night had two halves and a quiet space in between. Your ancestors used that space and they didn't fear it. So the next time you wake in the dark, before reaching for a screen, consider this. You weren't designed to sleep through the night without interruption. You were designed to wake, to lie still in the dark for a while, and then let sleep find you again. You're not broken at 3 a.m. You're simply remembering something your body never forgot.